For the longest time, high school track and field has really been about winning state championships. But that was then, and this is now. Because thanks to Nike and New Balance, we now have 2 national indoor championship meets at the high school level on the exact same weekend. I don't really know how that works, but hey, it is what it is. And considering that I am the guy who does the high school national recruit rankings, remember, I'm ranking all the athletes across all of the events to help determine who is really the best. You can't just tell me you're a national champion anymore when we got multiple events going on at the same time. So I've actually got to compare the two to determine, well, yeah, who is real and who is not. So on a weekend that was destined to be the fastest we were ever going to get on an indoor track, at least at the high school level, I had to pay attention, but I also had to split my attention. But I also believe that you deserve to know the truth about what really happened out there. So here is a breakdown of the high school indoor national championship weekend through my eyes. I'm gonna try to be as honest as I possibly can, because there were a whole bunch of fast performances out there. But if you are a college coach who wants to recruit the absolute best, you don't actually care that much how fast the kid is. You care how fast they are compared to everybody else. Because the NCAA level, only one athlete can be a national champion, even if high school is still figuring that out. I do have to admit that I do have to start this off focusing on the Quincy Wilson situation, because anytime he hits the track, people want to know what happened. Quincy Wilson ran the 400 at the New Balance High School National Meet, and anytime he stepped onto a track, specifically against high school runners, because sometimes he's running with the pros, it really doesn't matter who's in the other lanes, normally. But this 400 wasn't a normal race, because Andrew Salvadon was on the starting line. That is the same young man who beat Quincy Wilson earlier this year in the 500 and broke the national record when he did it. So in a battle of 5-star recruits from the class of 2026 and the class of 2025, this time it was Quincy Wilson who got the victory. We could talk about meet records, championship records, all of that. But if you're really being 100% honest, none of that actually matters with Quincy Wilson. Because once you go to the Olympics at the age of 16 years old, and then come back to run in high school, everything you're doing is really just a time trial, because you're supposed to win out there, and he did. But he was not the only big-time performer on the track. And the only way I know how to do this is to split the difference between the 2 national meets. Because remember, I'm focusing on the performances that were of the highest caliber between both of them. For the girls indoor 200, New Balance was where it was at, because Raye is the #1 recruit in the class of 2026, although she might be reclassifying now as a Georgia commit, not entirely sure. She faced off with the #1 girls sprint recruit, a Texas commit, Elise Cooper from the class of 2025. But hey, it was Elise Cooper from the class of 2025 who got the victory when that one went down, which is not that much of a shocker if you actually remember that Elise Cooper was actually at the Olympic trials competing in the 200-meter dash and made the semifinals. But hey, that was then and this is now. Of course, Raye came back to win the 60 because she's the high school national record holder in the event. But that was at New Balance, because maybe the track they got over at the Armory is even faster, because Dana Wilson, who is a 5-star sprint recruit from the class of 2025, took that event, running substantially faster. And she's taking her 5-star talent to Tennessee in the SEC. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. In the girls' 60 hurdles, Taylor Cox got the victory at New Balance, and Madeline Cooper did it at Nike. They're both 4-star Georgia commits, but Madeline Cooper ran even faster on that weekend. But on the boys' side in the 60 hurdles, it was 5-star recruit Jayshawn Lloyd who proved that he was the best on the weekend. It really wasn't close on the clock. He dominated the Nike meet and is committed to take all that talent to Texas State in the Sun Belt Conference. So here is where things get interesting. In the boys' 60-meter dash, there were fireworks at both the Nike meet and New Balance. So I'm going to try to consolidate so you can really figure out what happened, because Braden Deshaun Williams just went 9.99 seconds, wind assisted in the 100-meter dash. But he showed up indoors to run the 60 at Nike and went 6.62 seconds. That won the event. But I'm not telling the full story, because then you move over to the New Balance meet, where Cole Kramer, who is a 4-star Tennessee commit, ran the exact same time. But that didn't win the event, because Kyler Brown, who, I'm gonna be honest, was a low 4-star recruit at best heading into this season. He shocked the entire nation, going 6.61 seconds. From what I can tell, he is currently uncommitted, but winning a national championship and doing it the way that he did, he ain't gonna be uncommitted for all that much longer. But the boys' 200-meter dash was even wilder, because Jake Odie Jordan, with a 5-star recruit from the class of 2026, won the 200 at New Balance. Because, well, I mean, hey, that's what 5-stars do. But the time he put down, and then when you look over at Nike, something different happened. Because Tate Taylor, who is a newly minted 5-star recruit out of Texas, ran a brand new high school national record in the 200-meter dash, 20.46 seconds. To put it in perspective, if he could have put those types of times down at the NCAA Indoor Championship meet, he would have been in the final competing to try and get a medal. I will be the first to admit that becoming a 5-star recruit on my list is incredibly hard. You don't just have to run fast. 4-star kids can pull that off. You gotta run fast when it actually counts. That's what makes you a 5-star. If you really want to be the highest of 5 stars, you can't even just run fast when it matters. You gotta run faster than everybody else when it actually matters. And Tate Taylor is starting to prove that he might be that type of talent. Which brings me now to the final performances that you definitely need to know about. Because Cooper Lutkenhaus, who was the only 5-star recruit in the class of 2027 that we knew about coming out of last year, he's dominated the 800 from then up until now. And of course, he won when he stepped on the track at Nike. Keep in mind, he already had the high school national record indoors in that event. So all these races he keeps on running from this point on are basically just a formality. And then there was Jane Hedengren in the girls' mile. There is a reason why she is not only a 5-star recruit for the class of 2025, and a BYU commit, might I add, but she is also ranked inside the top 5 for that class coming into this year. Remember, I said coming into the year. That was before. She dominated the Nike Cross National meet, and now broke the high school national record in the mile. She is in the same class with Sadie Englehart, the same girl whose record she had to take. And keep in mind, Sadie was just at the Olympic trials for the mile in 2024, but that was then and this is now. Because Jane's range from cross all the way down now into some of the moderate distance events is proving that by the time this year is over, you might be able to argue she is the number 1 distance recruit, and perhaps the number 1 on the entire board for 2025. The truth without Photoshop about any high school national championship meet is that most of the athletes who go there are hoping to get exposure. And I'm not saying that won't happen to some degree. But in the eyes of a college coach, and remember, I'm talking about the ones on the higher end, especially in the power conferences, when they're looking at that meet, there's really only a few names that they're actually focused on. And you know who they are, because they're all the way in the front of the race, every single time. If you have what it takes to beat those kids, then you can put your name on the radar. But for the most part, in college track and field, if you really look at how recruiting is breaking down, either you are a game breaker or you're not. When I say a game breaker, I mean the type of athlete who's going to be considered for full ride athletic scholarships, and once again on the other end, you're probably not going to see anything like that. Most college coaches don't really care that much where the talent is. They just want to know how to find it and how they can convince those athletes to get in their uniform. When they look at a high school national championship meet, there's a whole bunch of talented athletes there, but being fast isn't what they're after. They want to find the athletes who are faster than everybody else. So they're only focused on who is in the front of the race, especially if we're giving out full ride scholarships. Way more Division I programs than you might think actually don't even give them out, which is why it's so hard to actually get one when you go looking. And considering that all the way at the end of June, when the high school outdoor season is officially over, that is when I re-rank all of the recruits across the entire nation. You can be certain of one thing. If you do go off while competing against the nation's best, I will be paying attention. You actually made it all the way to the end of this video. I do have to admit that thank you doesn't do it justice anymore, because you are a real one. And if you want more from me beyond this video, on scarecruiting.com, you can get a ton of resources, like my free recruiting guide, online courses, and much more, including the option to meet with me one-on-one, where my specialty is helping you figure out which schools might actually be the best fit for you. And if nothing else, and you really just want to see more content like this, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.